Hello guys. So today I'll be discussing a very important, I cannot overemphasize the importance of this topic, which is called as obstetrical hemorrhage. It's the favorite topic of all examiners. It is expected out of you, not just in theory, but also in Viva. You're expected to know not just the latest guidelines regarding this, but also the various charts, the various new the risk assessment and management and stuff like that. And you need to know this in toto. And when I say you need to know this in toto, that means I'm not just talking about these topics and you should know a little bit about that. You should know every topic in detail. As a result of which, this class I'm going to be making in at least 3, 4 or maybe 4 or 5 volumes, and all the volumes are available to my students, the ones who have subscribed to me. The notes that I have prepared will also be given to the students who are subscribing to my classes. The rest of you, it will be advisable that you can just at least study this topic in detail and go through the previous year's questions and abreast yourself with the latest information on this topic. Otherwise, you can contact me and we'll see what we can go through, what we can do. But this topic, I've actually gathered information from all the guidelines available, all the journals available, all your basic standard textbooks, and I've churned it into a topic which is advisable from a point of view of a postgraduate. Actually, it is a very lengthy topic. We can go on and on and on, but what is expected from a postgraduate student, DNB student, that I have included in this entire chapter. And you will not have to go and hunt anywhere else, because even the the videos of Beal suture and various other techniques I have included in my my classes, which I'll be giving to my students. I'll not be able to cover everything in these lectures which I'm making for the rest of the students, but if you want to get associated with me, you can always contact me. So anyways, let's not waste time. We'll talk about obstetrical hemorrhage basically into 2 categories. I'll talk about the antepartum hemorrhage separately and the postpartum hemorrhage separately. We'll be discussing these points, like in antepartum hemorrhage, why will you have, why would any female have a hemorrhage? She's going to have, of course, then you have many reasons for that, trauma being one of them. But basically trauma also leads to some element of abruptio. When you talk about retroplacental hemorrhage, it's actually a very small percentage of portion of abruptio. So abruptio placentae, placenta previa, placenta accreta, which is basically going to cause more problems during the cesarean section rather than it's going to cause otherwise in the pregnancy. But yes, recurrent bleed is one of the features of placenta previa, placenta accreta both. I'm going to start with postpartum hemorrhage in this session. I'll be discussing antepartum hemorrhage separately. So in postpartum hemorrhage, I'm discussing the atonic uterus basically more, because the injuries to birth canal, which include cervical laceration or laceration to the vaginal wall, episiotomy, extension, hematoma formation, they will also be discussed, but in different volumes of the same class. Uterine inversion, very important, another absolutely different entity, different management. Uterine rupture again, and then retained products of conception, one of the 4 T's of postpartum hemorrhage. So let's start first with how I will classify, like I always do. Look, my classes, they always emphasize the importance of the point-wise studying. Once you're looking at a topic, you cannot miss a few important salient points. So why I always start my class with these important points is, even if I miss out a particular point, you know that this is also a point which has to be put whenever this question is asked about PPH. We cannot miss this particular thing. And it's also for my good that I'm able to tell you, I don't miss a particular point. So that is the reason why I always start my classes with a list of topics that I'll be making you study under this particular point. So let us talk about postpartum hemorrhage. Like I said before, and I'll stress it again, this is more a class about atonic uterus. Okay, trauma, tissue, thrombin, we'll talk about it later. The remaining T's, I'll talk to you about them as well. But right now, my emphasis is going to be on atonic uterus. So let us begin with what exactly is the meaning of PPH. So we'll first define what is PPH, then we'll see if we can predict. Half the purpose is, solved if you're able to predict is patient ke andar we can have PPH. We are looking forward to a postpartum maybe. See, if you do not have it, it's always good. But if you do have it, you're prepared. So very important thing is prediction. What are the risk factors? Okay, of course it happens sometimes unannounced, sometimes in the night, or a totally normal patient, a primary gravida who was being induced, and suddenly the patient ends up having PPH. He goes in shock. Worst case scenario. But yes, most of the time you can predict it. Identify the severity. Another very important point, a point that has to be stressed. You need to emphasize upon that because highly underestimated point. If you do not understand the severity of PPH, and that too much early, there is an acronym that says too less is done too late. That is the reason why high maternal mortality is there because of PPH. There are many patients, see, if you're working in a tertiary setup, many patients you get with anuria, oliguria, AKI, sepsis, shock. Sepsis is a totally different chapter. Last time I have just discussed in detail about sepsis. I've given you my notes, very elaborate notes. You should know about the Meo's chart. You should know about the other thing that I have always emphasized. And one more thing that I'd like to tell my students, that if at all you need to know the brand name, the exact composition, the exact dosage, I have a list of antibiotics. You can always ask me to provide you that. That was I did it for myself, but I can always give it to you because the latest antibiotics are the combination antibiotics, cephalosporins along with cloxacillin, sulbactam composition, different kinds of cephalosporins like cefixime, what is the brand name, ceftriaxone, what is the brand name, and so on and so forth. There are many. Teicoplanin, what is the dosage, vancomycin, what is the dosage. So if you want that, I can always provide you. Anyways, coming back to the point. So if you've worked in a tertiary setup, you understand the grave prognosis if you do not recognize in time. So this is not to be underestimated. You have to identify the severity really fast. Then, of course, these things go hand in hand. You have to immediately start resuscitating the patient. With what will you start resuscitating? I'll include that. What? Call for help, send investigations. All these three things go together. Most important are the blood and the blood products. Because baki everything is, just waiting for the blood to arrive, Everything that you're doing apart from that is just waiting for the blood to arrive. But actually, the thing that will help this patient will be blood. Of course, till the time you're giving uterotonics, and if nothing helps, see, the cause also you have to take out, because of the uterus is atonic, flaccid. Despite massage, despite uterotonics, despite whatever surgical, balloon tamponading that you're doing, if it's not helping, then you need to know what you're going to do. Whether you like to go for a Belin suture or surgical management, whether you'll go in for hysterectomy, which is the last resort, and when. So that will be the last point. So let us first start with the definition of postpartum hemorrhage. When will you call it postpartum hemorrhage? It says that a loss of 500 ml or more from the genital tract within 24 hours of delivery is called as PPH. Now PPH could be minor, it could be major. A blood loss between 500 ml to 1 liter, minor. But a blood loss which is more than 1 liter is considered major. So, and major maybe you have moderate and severe. Okay? Moderate may you have 1 to 2 liter loss, and anything above 2 liter is severe PPH. Now, I'll talk to you about identification of severity. Then how will you be able to say whether this is 500 ml or 1 liter loss? Because so much is already going in placenta, so much is usually, oozing out. So how will you understand whether it is 500 or 300 or 100 ml? Very difficult. So I'll be discussing about this topic later on. There is something called as secondary PPH. Now let's see what is that. Abnormal or excessive bleeding from the birth canal after 24 hours but till 12 weeks. 12 weeks ka matlab, you understand? 4 to 3. That means I'm talking about 3 months. Till 3 months, if there is excessive bleeding from the genital tract, that is called as PPH, a secondary PPH. So we're done with the introduction. Now let's talk about how can you predict. If I throw this question, even if you're not prepared, you'll be able to answer. Any time that the uterus is over distended, or if the patient is already having some comorbid conditions, at least in both these two conditions, the patient can end up having any amount of PPH. Okay, I'm not saying severe, I'm not saying moderate, I'm not saying mild or whatever. I'm just saying she can have PPH. For example, big baby, polyhydramnios, other conditions which may be a long labor. We've seen this, we've experienced this. Long labor, multiple pregnancies, patients with other comorbidities like preeclampsia, diabetes, obese patients, they will have more. Then, of course, fetal macrosomia, I've said, a delayed second stage, retained placenta, it's a reason. Any patient with placenta creta, she's going to bleed a lot. Well, these are now talking about other causes. Yes, anemia is a very important cause. Previous PPH is another cause. GA can, for whatever reasons, if you're operating under GA, she can have more amount of PPH. A few things that I'm telling you directly from the guidelines are that give uterotonics prophylactically as a routine, number 1. 2, 10 units into intramuscular. Intramuscular is the agent of choice in vaginal delivery. And in C-section, 5 international units of syntocinon. IV slow is again the agent of choice. So that means 10 I'm giving intramuscular in vaginal delivery, 5 I'm giving IV in cesarean. Ergometrin may be used if there is no hypertension, and Trenexa 0.5 to 1 gram should be added to oxytocin and syntocinon in case of heavy bleeding, because it has its own role. So that means now I'm done with the risk factors also. I've tried to predict them. I'm able to understand. You should know what is the active management of third stage of labor, a topic which has been emphasized by the FOGSI. The guidelines of FOGSI are available on the net. I'll be giving my students, the ones who are with me, the FOGSI guidelines as well. When I'll be giving you the GTG guidelines, I'll be giving you the FOGSI guidelines as well, so don't worry. So it has active management of third stage. So you know what active management of third stage is. There is no need to tell you, but control cord traction is there, use of uterotonics, and early clamping of the umbilical cord. So they are there in GTG as well, but you should study it more properly from your FOGSI guidelines. Now we'll come to the next and important point. Identify the severity. See, if you're able to catch PPH at the right time, you have not even, you've touched the place and come back. To touch it at the right time is very important, otherwise the patient has started circling the drain. So, very important is to assess severity. And to assess severity, we have 2 important things. The 2 important things to assess the severity is not just, a pictorial look. 2 things. Severity assessment goes into 2 channels. One is the most important, signs and symptoms of the patient. And of course, there is visual score, visual look of, you'll be able to understand, so many mobs are gone, so many kidney tray have been filled, your suction machine, how much. So I will be providing you the pictorial graphs. I have saved them and I'll be providing my students with the pictorial graphs. You will see for yourself, if the kidney tray is half full, what is the amount of blood loss? If it's fully full, what is the amount of blood loss? One clot will have how much blood? Fully soaked mop means how much blood? Everything is there. And those pictorial graphs are also very important for the staff. Why? Because sometimes these nurses, they take the delivery. In many institutes, it's the sister which takes the delivery. But if she doesn't understand, she will never call for help. If she doesn't understand that this patient has bled a little more than normal, she's not going to call for help. If she does not call for help, the patient might just end up having shock. So, it's very important for her to assess, for her to timely call you so that you can help her out. Because by the time you approach and by the time you start the resuscitative measures, the patient has already gone in the worst possible case scenario. Anyway, so the pictorial charts I'll be providing you. And as far as the signs and symptoms are concerned, there is something called as urgency grid. This is there in your Fernando areas. Now, like I am telling you, the reference that I have taken is from Williams, Fernando areas. GTG guidelines, FOXI guidelines, and a couple of other, guidelines which are important in different aspects. Like for example, pictorial charts, it's given nowhere. But I always knew that pictorial charts are important, not just for you, but also for your staff. So you have to include it, alright? Anyways, so now I'll talk to you about urgency grid. It is there in Fernando areas, but still I'll be providing it with you. Urgency grid means I'm talking about how much blood loss and what is it going to cause to the mother. What will happen if 500 is gone? What will happen if 1 liter is gone? So that will be my next segment.